The pickup truck season is in full swing right here in Malaysia. We've got the facelifted Toyota Hilux and Nissan Navara, and as well as the updated Mitsubishi Triton Athlete. But the most significant new truck of all is this one right here, the brand new 3rd generation Isuzu D-Max. While the others are just mere facelifts, this is properly all new from the ground up. You've got a brand new platform, you've got new looks inside and outside, a brand new transmission, and a heavily updated engine as well. This here is the most premium, most advanced Isuzu D-Max ever. But at the same time, prices have gone up quite dramatically as well. The old D-Max topped out at about 127,000 ringgit. This right here, the flagship D-Max X-Terrain, costs 142,000 ringgit. So why the dramatic price hike, and what's the new model all about? Let's find out. Let's address the burning question first, the pricing. How can it be that the old car costs so much less compared to this one? Well, Isuzu basically splits the D-Max range into 4. The lowest level is of course the most basic single cab models. Going further on to the double cab versions, there's the standard, the premium, and the flagship models. Now this is the very first D-Max to go into the flagship subcategory. The old D-Max topped out in the premium segment, so this is a completely new model for the D-Max. You can see it as simple as this. This new D-Max X-Terrain goes head-to-head against the fancy models like the Hilux Rogue, the Triton Athlete, the Ford Ranger Wildtrak, and the Navara, I don't know what's it called, 4X Pro or something. Yeah, that new angry face. This goes against that. Isuzu has ventured into this so-called flagship subcategory for a very good reason. According to its own data, over the 35,000 pickup trucks sold in Malaysia in 2020, only 1 out of 3 were used for commercial purposes. The rest are mostly for lifestyle, family usage. And the majority of them wanted high-end luxury versions. So Isuzu was missing out on that big slice of the pie. So with this one, it's coming back with a big vengeance. Like I said, this really is an all-new model. As you can clearly see from the outside, the front face is all new. It's got very slim, very angry looking headlamps. There's a big toothy front grille. It looks like it's got double sets of fangs, very distinctive. I think it looks quite good as well. Isuzu says this car has been designed in terms of aerodynamics at the same wind tunnel as the Japanese Shinkansen, the bullet train. So that has shaped the car to have this very dramatic, angry, aggressive front face. Moving on to the side, you can see that this car's window line has been squeezed a little bit for a more dramatic, more sporty look on the outside. The side shoulder line has been increased up, and the top roof line has been moved slightly down. So the overall effect is a much sleeker, much sporty design on the outside. This sharper look is also continued to the back as well, where the rear tail lamps are as stylized as any pickup trucks out there. One key feature for the back is the fully integrated rear bumper. While most pickup trucks have a rather afterthought look for the rear bumper, this one is fully connected into the body line. I think it looks fantastic for a pickup truck. Above all that are all the add-ons for this top spec X-Terrain versions. All the chrome bits are now fully wrapped in gloss grey. I think it looks great. Even the wheels look very menacing in dark grey. The wheels themselves have a rather controversial design. I think it looks a bit too closed up, too much like a plastic hubcap, I think. But they also hide much bigger front disc brakes, so that is very important when you're carrying loads, obviously. Now let's move on to the interior, where there is an even bigger jump in terms of look and feel compared to the exterior. The old D-Max came from a whole different generation of pickup trucks. This happened way before all these lifestyle-focused products came about. And this one is a big upgrade. Honestly, if I was told that this is an interior of a C-segment SUV like a CR-V or an Outlander, I would believe them, because by the look of it, by the feel of it, this feels way above what you think a pickup truck would feel like inside. Even before we talk about the design, the build quality here is mighty impressive. The whole top part of the dashboard is fully soft touch. There's a nice stitching as well, and even as you go down the cabin, the plastics do get harder and harder, but every single touch point does look very good. It looks hard wearing, as pickup trucks should, but at no point does it look really cheap. As far as pickup trucks go, this is easily the best cabin in the business. Playing a key role is this massive 9-inch touchscreen system in the center here. This is the biggest screen to be found in the local pickup truck market, and beyond that, it supports wireless CarPlay, the very first pickup truck to have this feature in Malaysia. This is a feature usually reserved for much more expensive models, premium models even. To have it in a pickup truck is absolutely unbelievable. Having said that, it's not perfect. The screen's user interface looks very drab, very hard to use, but to me that's not even relevant because most of the time you'll be using Android Auto or wireless CarPlay anyway. One more thing, this car only has a reverse camera instead of an all-around view monitor like in most of its rivals. But on the other hand, this reverse camera looks actually quite good, probably more useful than the really blurry 360 cameras in the Hilux and in the Triton. Moving further down, this Isuzu D-Max has a dual zone climate control system, and the aircon controls down here look and feel about the same as the one in my Mercedes-Benz C-Class. Classy. Moving down here, Isuzu has worked hard to make this car feel a lot more premium, a lot more luxurious inside. This gear knob has an illuminated top, so if you're in the car at night, you'll see all these letters lit up, illuminated. I think that looks quite cool. They've also made this center console slightly higher and slightly wider to have that more cocooned interior feel. But by doing that, they've also made the driver footwell a little bit too narrow. This car has a really small left footrest, which is not going to be comfortable over long journeys, especially if you go off-road. But speaking of comfort, the seats on this D-Max are supremely comfortable. The front seats easily the best in the class. They are so wide, so comfortable, so supportive. This even has proper shoulder support. You don't even get that in much more expensive cars. Plus, for this flagship X-Terrain, it's also powered. So yeah, that is a nice touch. As for things I don't like, despite how premium everything feels, there are one or two small little bits that betray this car's premium aspirations. The handbrake, for instance, uses this really cheap, shiny plastic on it. And worse than that is this same plastic used on the steering wheel. This is something that's right in front of you as you drive, so despite everything else feeling very nice, this cheap plastic over here just reminds you that you are in fact in a workhorse. Another thing that's not so good are the rear seats on this car. You have slightly more legroom than before, which means it's more spacious than the Mitsubishi Triton, but the seats themselves are still too upright to be comfortable over longer journeys. Isuzu says the rear backrest has been reclined slightly to 24 degrees. Now that may sound okay to you, but let me remind you that the original Prodo Abezza, the one where everybody complains about how upright the rear seats are, that is set at 23 degrees. So it's pretty much the same as the one we have in the back of the Isuzu here. Plus, that is pretty much the default Grab car nowadays, so pretty much everybody would have sat in the back of one. The Mitsubishi Triton's rear seats are still a few degrees more reclined compared to this, so yeah, in terms of rear seats, that would still be more comfortable for longer journeys. But on the plus side, you do get rear dedicated aircon vents, which is nice in this weather, plus quite a few USB charging ports to make it feel much more modern inside. As for the truck bed, the Isuzu D-Max X-Terrain now comes standard with a sliding load lip, plus a damper for the rear tailgate, so that is a nice thing to have. One thing to note is that this car does not come with a sports bar. There is one available as an option, but even then, that is an old school metal tube type version instead of the more modern looking plastic types. The X-Terrain also has quite a few unique features that are new to the pickup market here in Malaysia, such as the windscreen washer jet integrated into the front wipers, walkaway auto lock, remote engine start, and an industry best 7-year warranty with unlimited mileage. But that is only for the top spec X-Terrain model. In total, there are 7 variants of the D-Max available in Malaysia, with prices starting from 90,000 ringgit. Check out paultan.org for the full breakdown of all 7 variants. With this new D-Max, Isuzu is confident of improving its pickup sales by 50%, going up from just 4,000 units in 2020 to a targeted over 6,000 units in 2021. But now let's move on to this car's engine. There are 2 engine options available, just like before, a 1.9 and a 3-litre engine. The 1.9 is pretty much a carry-over engine, same exact outputs, 150 PS, 350 Newton meters of torque, but this new 3-litre is heavily updated compared to the old car. There is now a whole new head, a new turbocharger, and a whole lot of extra improvements made to the old unit. In terms of outputs, has gone up quite a fair bit. This engine now makes 191 PS and 450 Newton meters of torque. So that makes it more competitive against its rivals, even though for a big 3-litre engine, it's not as high as you might expect. As a comparison, the Hilux 2.8 engine has more power and more torque, and this car's 3-litre outputs are actually very similar to the Triton 2.4s. On the other hand, Isuzu is known for sort of under-tuning their engines to make them last forever. So yeah, that could still be a key point for Isuzu. Also new is the transmission. Out goes the old 5-speeder, now comes a new 6-speed automatic transmission. And altogether, it all feels rather decent. Not great, decent. I say this because even with all these upgrades, the engine is still one of the louder engines in the pickup truck market. I think over the past 5 years, pickup trucks have really surged forward in terms of refinement. If you jump into a modern Ranger right now, the engine feels like a proper modern diesel, no longer like a workhorse diesel truck. This is still closer to the older trucks that you think of when you think of, dirty diesel, rattly engines. This is already a big improvement over the old Isuzu 3-litre, but compared to its more contemporary rivals, it's still a little bit behind the curve. And then there's also the throttle response. This is a very, very lazy engine. Again, perhaps the D-Max is purposely under-tuned to have extra reliability in the long run, I don't know. But as it is, you feed the throttle now, it takes about half a second to a full second for the engine to even respond. And even then, the shove that you get is nowhere near as strong as even the Triton 2.4s. When it does come in full steam, it is a pretty strong engine, but it is very loud. I'm sure you can hear that very, very clearly. Now let's talk about handling for a short bit, because here it is quite surprising. Because if you look at the car from the outside, it looks very premium, very luxurious even. And then you jump in and you drive, and it feels very much like an old school pickup truck to drive. And I'm talking about everything from the lazy steering, the lazy throttle response, to the rather jiggly and bouncy ride comfort. It doesn't quite feel like a proper modern truck to be in. It feels like, say, half a generation ago. The steering wheel especially is extremely vague. Now you may have seen reviews from the Australian market saying this car has electric power steering, it feels quite nice to drive, but that is not the same car that we are getting. For the ASEAN market, us and Thailand, we are getting the hydraulic power steering system. And while it is a lot lighter than the older version, it is extremely vague and loose. I mean, just look at it. This car's going straight, but I'm doing this. So yeah, for long journeys on the highways, this can get pretty annoying. But it's not all bad, because this is a much better truck to drive compared to the old D-Max. Take it through a couple of corners, and it's very, very clear that in terms of dynamics, this is a huge jump over the old car. The old car felt much too soft, much too, well, for the lack of a better word, to pickup trucky. This feels like a much more composed, much more well put together vehicle. So in terms of driving dynamics and comfort, this is still a little bit behind compared to its key rivals. But within Isuzu's own domain, this is a huge improvement over the old D-Max. So if you're driving the old D-Max jumping to this, will feel like a huge generational leap forward, which obviously it is. Now let's talk about safety, where this car absolutely shines. Well, at least this top spec flagship version. This offers 7 airbags as standard and a full ADAS active driving assist systems. This includes autonomous emergency braking that works at up to 80 kilometers per hour, an adaptive cruise control system, and this even works down to a stop, which means it can help you navigate through traffic jams. This makes it the most advanced pickup truck on sale in Malaysia today. The Hilux and the Ranger may have adaptive cruise control, but they don't have stop and go function. This one does. Now I wish I can stop right there, but I can't, because unfortunately this is the only car in the D-Max range to have the full suite of ADAS and 7 airbags. The very next version under the flagship model gets downgraded to just 2 airbags and no ADAS. That is a shame for 2021. Also, a disappointment is that we do not get the rather cool center airbag that's available in the Australian market Isuzu D-Max. But still, the D-Max gets the full 5-star ratings from all 3 crash safety organizations, ASEAN NCAP, Australian A NCAP, as well as the Euro NCAP. So yeah, in terms of safety, it is a big plus for the Isuzu D-Max. But unfortunately, that's only reserved for the top spec X-Terrain version over here. So that's about it for our quick drive of the brand new Isuzu D-Max here in Malaysia. For now, first impressions are quite positive for the most part. It's just that in terms of driving dynamics, this isn't quite near the top of the class just yet. But if you're looking for absolute value, this is the truck to get. So finally, Isuzu is properly back in the game. So what do you think of this new D-Max, this new 3rd generation Isuzu D-Max X-Terrain? Let me know in the comment section below. Thank you for watching and stay safe, everyone.